So here we are at the entrance to McGuire Furniture on Lexington Ave in New York City, and these are the three photographs that we chose for the entrance to McGuire, and these are three images that are a smaller size than the rest of the images in the show. They're 8 inches by 8 inches, and they're all from the There Are No Stars Here portfolio that's being shown here. And you know, these images actually were all shot around New York City. This one is of Christmas lights on a tree. It's around Christmas time. One of the most beautiful things I think is walking around the city and seeing the way Christmas lights are done in New York City. They really take it to the next level, and go all out decorating in New York City. So photographing Christmas lights, it's something I do every single year. I have so many photographs of Christmas lights I can't even tell you. But this was one of the first, and this was kind of where that started for me. And this was one of the images that started this entire portfolio. This one is fluorescent light in Midtown. Pretty mundane, from a sign for a paint store called Janvik Paints. Again, it's one that I color corrected and kind of tried to bring out a richer color palette in the photograph. And this guy, I have absolutely no idea where it came from. I think it's somewhere in Soho. I think it's from a window display, but I have no idea. And so this is my show. Avery McCarthy. This photograph was taken in Berlin, in Potsdamer Platz. I was in Berlin for 3 days, my spring break of my senior year, and I got so much work done. It was kind of amazing that if you're in the right state of mind, in the right place, with the right equipment, work just happens. You can spend months and months and months and not take a good picture, and then in 3 days you get 2 whole portfolios. So for this one, this was, I'm always fascinated by Christmas lights in the city or other sorts of sources of illumination. On my Facebook page, right below my picture, it actually just says, I like things that glow, on that little about me section. So this was, I think that this is underneath, I don't even know what it is. I think it was underneath an umbrella or something in a cafe, and they strung some Christmas lights under the umbrella. But because I was shooting with, this is all shot on medium format film, so because I was shooting with medium format film, the speed is so slow that it just picks up the light. It doesn't pick up any of the surroundings, it doesn't pick up anything that the light is illuminating, it just picks up the lights. So when I got it back, it ended up looking like all these little blue ping pong glow balls floating in space. So it was a pretty profound image, and I was really thrilled as I was making it. Okay, this piece was also shot in Berlin. All around Berlin. Berlin is a fascinating city for me because it's very modern. A lot of the architecture in Berlin is very modern, and a lot of the architecture is very old. Most of it was destroyed in World War II, so there's still construction going on all over Berlin. This photograph is a photograph of cranes in Berlin. And on the cranes in America, they have these little flashing lights so the planes don't hit them. But in Berlin, what they have is these strings of, they look like Christmas lights. Again, we go back to the Christmas light thing. So if you come up close here, you can see that this is actually a crane at night in Berlin. And they're part of the Berlin skyline, or they were when I was there. So this photograph was also taken in Berlin. I've always had an interest in the architecture of kind of mundane places and trying to find a profound shape in a mundane place. And so this is actually a support column in a movie theater in Berlin, and it had this this sort of profound satellite, almost very futuristic, very minimal. It felt like like a science fiction set. It also felt, there's a heavy, it felt phallic, it felt sexual, it felt, it had a complexity to it for such a really simple form. So this photograph was taken outside Ripley's, believe it or not, in Times Square. Times Square has been oddly kind of a recurring source of inspiration for me as a photographer. Being one of the most photographed locations on Earth, it's alternately easy and hard to find original stuff there, because everyone's seeing pictures of everything all the time. And so I've actually had, at this point, almost 3 different. Times Square has incorporated itself into 3 different portfolios that I made. And so this was the first of those. This was outside of Ripley's, believe it or not. There are rows and rows of these lights, and they kind of epitomize the idea of Broadway and this kind of show, the show aesthetic, and there's a theatricality to it. And a lot of my friends are actors and work in theater and in film, and so the idea of having a piece that was so theatrical in the portfolio was really, really fun for me. Because it really, theater and documenting theater and being around theater has been such a big part of my life ever since high school. I never really hung out with kids in the photo room. I was always in the photo room, but most of my friends were involved in theater. I love the community of theater. I love the atmosphere of putting on a show. I love the backstage and the community that surrounds putting on a show together. And so Broadway and Times Square and all that sorts of stuff is really conceptually interesting to me. So this is another one of my pieces from the series. This one was shot in New York City. Not too far from Times Square. It's actually Rockefeller Center. There's a restaurant. Let's start that over. There's a restaurant in Rockefeller Center called Top of the Rock, and the lobby of Top of the Rock has this giant multi-story crystal chandelier that has all sorts of lights at the top of it, and these beautiful metal strings with crystals hanging down. And actually 2 of the images from this portfolio are of this chandelier. This one is actually of the chandelier from the side, and in some of these pieces I have a little bit of a painter in me and I take some liberties, and this one I took one of the larger liberties, which was that I just color corrected it completely wrong. It's not this color at all in real life, and I turned it sideways. So this was my artistic license, and I've always been really influenced by Kandinsky and painting and the idea of choosing a color palette. And one of the things that always irked me about photography was that part of in the education of how to print correctly as a photographer, they try and teach you to make your photograph as accurate to real life as possible, and I just never was interested in that at all. I have done some work that is accurate to real life in terms of its color, but I was always interested in in seeing what I could create, and as opposed to what I could capture.